All right, everybody, we are live again. Dynasty Mirror Search for Guru, and I have a special guest on with us today. The brother was on with us yesterday, and we had a dynamic show in regards to technology. And today we're going to be discussing are Black people being left behind by technology. Now, it's like it's a catch-22 because we have all the new technology as far as iPhones and I don't know, the Sega, I mean, what PlayStation 10, and,
PlayStation, Xbox.
and all of that, but
Hmm.
we don't develop or create any of it, which I think is a problem. Uh,
Yes,
no.
it's a big part of the problem.
So real quick, guys, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you share. If you're new, please subscribe. Also, make sure you go to dynastymirror.com. Also, if you have if you're interested in the tour coming up to Nigeria, make no excuses. Come to Africa. Come on the pilgrimage with us, March 20th to the 26th. Go to dynastymirror.com. Send me a message for more details. But Mr. Brown, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much. Again, I'd like to thank you so much for giving me this platform. And I'd also like to do a special shout out to all the people in the audience, those who are live and those who are going to be watching it later. It's a big responsibility to to be able to come before them and take some of their time. So so yesterday, by the way, Dennis, I had a chance to look through some of the comments, which will inform some of the things they were pretty good, but there were a little bit of information that I'll provide early on in the conversation, just so that I can provide some guidance in terms of languages and computer languages and stuff like that. I won't get too technical because this is not a technical conversation, but I'll just throw in a few things in there that will make it.
Okay.
For those who are aware, for those who might not be aware, but or may have been some part in the process before, this will help them. So Vision 2020, guys, it's argon.com, arghon.com/Vision 2020. So Argon is an AI. If you're familiar with Siri, if you're familiar with Google, or the Amazon Alexa, Argon is like those, but it's not really like them. And the reason I say it's not like them is because Argon is really an AI, and an AI is very, very complex. And I won't go into bother you guys with the why it's different, but the learning ability of Argon is why it's so different. It's like a kid, you start off very young, you know nothing. You can't really be helpful to your family. But as you grow older and you learn more about them, then the information becomes meaningful. So that is Argon, the AI. As part of Vision 2020, you need to get an Argon account. And you just go to argon.com and you can sign up. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Then Vision 2020, it's about teaching people about technology and about writing programs. It's not just about writing programs. I mentioned yesterday that we don't want you to just learn to write code. We want you to also think about the business end of this. In other words, at some point, we hope that a alumni of Vision 2020 will be running or have created a multi-billion-dollar corporation. There's no real reason why that can't be, because it's just intellectual property, so to speak. It's not a billion-dollar business that you have to go get that much money to start, right? So Vision 2020, when we set out to do Vision 2020, we decided that, there were a lot of things that we had to consider. One was, who's the primary audience, right? What is their economic status? If we go overseas, as in Africa, will they be able to afford the technology? And so when we looked at it, we realized, one, we can't expect people to go out and buy expensive equipment, right? In America, we're spoiled in a way because you can run down the street and buy a $200 computer laptop on a $250 laptop, and it's pretty decent, right? But in some countries, that's your monthly wage. So you just really can't do something like that. So for that reason, when we built Argon, we built it so that you can use a tablet. And yesterday you mentioned about the Chromebook. I have a Chromebook on my desk over there. You can use the Chromebook because most of your information is stored on our system, so you don't need to worry about storage. Now you can also put a little one of those little what do you call those drives inside of micro drives and inside of a Chromebook, and you can store things on it. So it's not that you can't store things on a Chromebook. It was really designed more for the cloud, but you can certainly store things on it, and you can also hook it up to a network and access things from the network as well.
Hey, Mr. Brown, can I ask a question? People want, I don't know how you want to go about this, but people in the chat are saying they want to email you business proposals and all that. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so if you want to contact me, send me an email at vision2020@argon.com. Vision2020@argon.com. By all means, send me your proposals, send me your ideas, send me everything. Let me be the judge of it, so to speak, because you might think, oh, might not be something worthy of them, but you don't know. You just don't know. So if you have an idea, if you want to, share this. By the way, Dynast, a few people have reached out to me already.
Okay.
Yes, and some from overseas and some from the United States. And so we're scheduling conferences to talk to them about what their ideas are, to see how we can help them. And I believe we can help quite a few of them as well. So by all means, vision2020@argon.com, and send me your proposal ideas, anything like that. And we'll get back to you. Give us a couple of days. Usually we get back to you the next day, but when you have swamped by people trying to reach out to you. And by the way, guys, when we reach out to you, we actually sit down and read what you say to us, and we've mostly discussed it already. So it's not just hey, I see your email, I'm going to reply to you. It's not one of those. We will give you, you take the time to create the email, you take the time to reach out to us. We owe you our time, our undivided attention to the email that you send us. So again, vision2020@argon.com, ARGHON.com. All right. So this is a little bit of housekeeping. So I mentioned before that, and by the way, guys, we will take some questions later on. So if you have questions, you can put them inside here, but we're going to obviously take, somebody asked, is the company owned by me? It's owned by my family. So okay. It's by us. And yes, it's one of us. That's what I mentioned yesterday, that, if we were to sell it, what are we doing? But that's another story for another day. So let me go back to the design behind Vision 2020. Dynast, you know very well that in January, especially the first week of January, people have all these resolutions that they make. And by February, it's out the window. Mm-hmm. The reality is that, fully 30% of people who enter college in the United States don't graduate. And you would think money is the primary driver of people not finishing college. Nope. Most of the time it's because they don't know what they want, right? They take one major and then they realize, no, that's not what I want. And they try to take another one. And, and it just, out of frustration, they just end up dropping out. So that tells us something. It tells us that people, my mom used to say, the heart is willing, but the flesh is weak. In other words, you have greatest of intentions, but you don't always execute it. So in Vision 2020, from a time scale perspective, we're saying that if you start on the system and you start, messing around with code, and you give it 6 months, and every week, let's say you give it, say, 3-4 hours, you'll be a pretty decent programmer.
Right.
Right. But, Dynast, I say this with a little chuckle, because you know what, Dynast? There's an awful lot of people who don't want to work for anything. They think they're going to get it by osmosis. Mm-hmm. In other words,
can I interject real quick? Can I interject, please, since you brought that up? Now, the whole you can microchip your brain and acquire a skill and knowledge instantly. Is that true, since you brought up the whole osmosis?
No, not yet. First of all, we don't even understand half of what the mind is. So, right. The brain is a very complex function. And when we were designing Argon, man, we did more study about the brain than I care to remember. But no, we're not there yet. And artificial intelligence is not where people think it is. Don't use the movies, don't use Jarvis, Iron Man's Jarvis as the standard, or iRobot with Will Smith. We're just not there yet, technology-wise, but we're getting there. Right? So, so when we designed Vision 2020, the goal is I mentioned before that a big reason why, when you graduate from college, when you go to computer science, when you go to college and you learn computer science, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you learn computer science, they teach you one or two programming languages. So nowadays they teach you JavaScript. They may teach you maybe C or C++, most likely C++, or introductory class. And these are just, by the way, these are introductory classes. Don't think you're a programmer. I mean, you're a programmer in name, but trust me, that's like somebody who had their first 5 lessons in driving a car and think they're an expert car driver, all right? Or somebody who first 5 lessons in flying an airplane and think they're a fighter pilot. There is a vast difference between what they teach you in school and what you actually do in reality. So with that in mind, colleges, what they're teaching you is they're teaching you the mechanism to learn. Okay, they're not teaching you the actual thing you need. They're giving you a certain skill set that you can then go out and deploy to learn the actual thing you wanted. And I mentioned before that when I was in college and I was writing these advanced programs, I didn't even realize they were so advanced until I go and ask a professor. I run into a problem and I wanted to ask a professor or two about a particular problem and realize they don't know anything about it. So that's when I realized what they were teaching me in school. And by the way, I used to make a really good living writing code for other computer science students. Back in the day, we used to have mainframes. So PCs were just coming in. And we used to print out your coursework. So and on the coursework, so you had the code itself and the results, the run or the throughput of the code. And it would be stacked up in one big location under your different alphabetical order, right? And I kept printing 1-2 copies of mine and couldn't find it.
Uh-huh.
People were just taking it because they realized that, yes, they could take my code and then copy it. But then after a while, the professors got smart and realized that's Collie's code. That's not your code. So, to save them the headache and to save me not getting any copy and keep running into issues where I go there and my copy is gone, I started charging people for it. Point being, though, that the college perspective wise, they don't teach you all you need to know. They're giving you an introductory course, right? An introduction. You now need to go out and actually get a job and learn coding. Okay. That is where a lot of times people fail, because I mentioned yesterday, you have this catch-22. You're not getting the job because you don't have the experience, and you can't get the experience without having the job. So in Vision 2020, we realized that's a big problem. So we decided in Vision 2020, that's why it's important that you get the Argon account, because what you're going to be doing in Vision 2020 is you're going to be manipulating that AI. And let me ask you this question. Manipulating an AI is not an easy thing. It's a very sophisticated thing. And by the time you master that, you are a master programmer. And you can go work for anybody, right? So we designed these systems. We didn't just, throw something together. It was important because if you do not, as I mentioned before yesterday, if you do not practice, if you're learning French and you don't practice it on a daily basis or frequent basis, speaking to somebody in French and they're speaking back to you, they're replying back to you in French, you're not going to master the language. It's just, that's the way life is. There's no shortcuts to it. And I'm not promising anybody any shortcut. I'm promising you a path. I'm telling you that we have created a path for people to go out and get very good, high-paying, 6-figure jobs. Okay? That's what I'm saying. So I don't want anybody to misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not painting a pie in the sky. I'm saying if you work hard and you are dedicated and you know what you're about and you put time in, you will see the rewards. It's plain and simple as that, right? I'm saying to you that we have thought through some of the things, because Dynast, I have looked at so many resumes over the years
Okay.
at all levels of technology.
Yeah.
Okay, at all levels of technology, from entry level to senior vice president level. And so I know what the resume, I know what a good resume looks like. And I also know what a good candidate looks like. So naturally, when we were designing Vision 2020, that I was going to deploy some of that understanding in it. Because we know, for example, that if you do not have a big network, and typically, minorities don't have a very big network in technology. That's why we're so tiny, the numbers. There are many reasons why we're tiny, but 6%, but it's really 2% I mentioned yesterday. 6% being everybody, African Americans in the technology space, but 2% being the high paying ones. So, I mentioned that because when you're not part of that network, you don't get the job. Again, I mentioned yesterday that I've seen lots of resumes come in, and I've seen kids fresh out of college who come right in and they learn on the job. But guess what? They've got a connection to somebody in the company. That they're part of somebody's network in the company. And so they're afforded the luxury of coming in and learning on the company's nickel. We aren't necessarily that lucky. Okay, guys, that's just a fact of life. And there's no point in us screaming and crying about it. You know what your challenges are and just be prepared to master it. That's all we have to do. It's not a big deal. We just know what we have to do, and we're just going to have to go execute it. So in Vision 2020, we said, look, we have to make sure that you have some target, something to practice on, something to burnish your reputation on, so to speak, right? Or your skill sets on, right? So that's why you're going to manipulate the AI. But we have also go one step further. We want to create, we've created the buddy system. That is to say, Dynast, in a typical programming environment where people, let's say I hire a programmer, my guys normally I would have a big team, but that would be broken down into, let's say I have, different parts of the system that people are working on. So I would group maybe 2-3 programmers with a quality assurance group and business analysts. Those are three groups of people that are usually in one group, right? Mm-hmm. And what happens is the business analysts, their job is to take the information or the requirements. In other words, if we want to create a screen where you can put your name, first name, last name, address, and store it in the database, that would be the requirement. Mm-hmm. So the business analyst would document that. That would then be handed over to the developers. The developers would then take that instruction, that requirement or specification, and then write the actual screen, create the actual screen, and DB or the database person would then go ahead and create the actual fields in the database and so on and so forth. And then the quality assurance people, their job is to say, hey, you told me that you just finished the screen, and it should be, when they hit save, it should save the information. Good. And so they're going to test that. And if it doesn't work out, in other words, let's say it's saving 2 fields or it's not saving another one, then it goes back to the programmer, and the cycle goes back and forth until eventually that's solved. Okay. Now, in Vision 2020, what we decided was, look,
After this, Collie Brown. Sure. Now I know the topic is, it's our Black people pretty much, are we taking advantage, are we failing technology?
I'm going to address that going forward. That's what I'm going to do. But I just wanted to put this little piece out there because I know some of your people are technical enough so that they'll understand this. But when they go to talk to other people, they need to know what is Vision 2020. So I'm winding this piece up a little bit here. So that process in Vision 2020, what we did was we said, look, we have the buddy system where you get 2 of your friends, maybe your family or friends. And when you create a neuron in Argonne, they can subscribe to it, and then they are the testers, essentially. So you're being put into the same atmosphere, the same kind of system that you would experience when you go work for a company outside. That's why when you go in a company interview, they ask you, have you worked in a team, and so on and so forth. So that's basically how we structured Vision 2020. And then the final little piece on this, the final little technical piece on this is, in terms of programming languages, there's lots of them out there, over 700 languages, I'm counting. there are two types of languages. I'm going to just break them into two: compiled languages and non-compiled languages. Like JavaScript is a compiled language. That's what you use to create the websites and stuff like that. And then the compiled languages are typically what you use in the back-end side of things. If you're talking about artificial intelligence, you're primarily talking about the compiled languages, because you're just simply not going to be able to use JavaScript. In fact, you simply can't use JavaScript for artificial intelligence. So I kind of wanted to put that out there. And if anybody have any questions they want to follow up on, then I can address it some more.
Okay.
Now let's get back to the topic, because I think I went off, to give those people what they needed. Technology, the community. Yesterday I mentioned that we have a very healthy, we have a very unhealthy relationship with technology.
Correct.
The relationship we have is a consumer one, and essentially, when you think about it, Dynast, how do we get technology? How does technology reach our community? Well, what typically happens is,
as consumers.
Yes.
Primarily.
It's a consumer thing. So
it comes as a finished product already.
Finished product, correct. So Apple will have a fancy iPhone, and they put the iPhone up and say, "Look at my fancy iPhone. Hey, you know what? It's got 1,000 megapixel camera. Doesn't exist, but 1,000 megapixel camera, just for example, right? And they put some really nice, good-looking people in these things. Basically, what they're saying is consume, consume, consume.
Right.
And I mentioned yesterday that you don't see anything whatsoever regarding the back end side of things. What happens behind all of this shiny stuff that they're showing you?
Mm-hmm.
I also mentioned yesterday, so that's an unhealthy relationship. Okay, that's an unhealthy relationship.
Uh-huh.
Now, that is targeted at everybody. It's not just our community. It's targeted at everybody. The problem for us is that in our community, in other communities, they have access to the business side of things.
Right.
Maybe, okay, so let's say as a technology person, right, as a technologist, I'm going to make sure that my family understands the business side of technology. So the effect on them is going to be balanced, because I am supplying the business side of things to my family.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because I'm in the space. If you're not in the technology space at all, you have the only exposure you're getting to technology is the consumption piece.
Right.
Okay. The other thing also is, in school, teachers play a very significant role in terms of what people do.
Okay.
Teachers can discourage you from pursuing. I got fired from a job, Dynast, when I was in college.
Okay, what happened?
The guy wanted me to quit college, and I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, he must be out of his mind. So I said to him, do what you got to do, and I'll do what I have to do.
Right.
The point is that I understood the value of education. I understood the value of knowledge, right? But my point is, people discourage kids.
All right.
Let's put it this way. You don't have to discourage kids. You just don't encourage them. And that is a significant, the other thing I'm going to say is, when it comes to African-American kids, this is almost a tragedy, because do you know that most of the kids who get into trouble are some of the brightest kids in our community?
I'm gonna stop you right there. I'm gonna take it a little bit further. Some of the most intelligent people I ever met were homeless people on the street.
Yes. So what happens is, so when I was growing up, and I'm going to use myself as an example here, although I didn't grow up in the inner city here or anything like that, but I'm going to describe to you that if I were in America, I'd be in trouble, because when we were little, right? Mm-hmm. If there was some gadget, I learned to drive by taking my dad's car out of the garage and drive it down the street, and it was a stick shift, so I couldn't bring it back into the garage, right? You know what? Let me say this to you. Some of them.
Not even regret that bad.
That was a good one. That's a good one.
Hey, here we go. Hey, Susan's right though. Hey, I got that 9mm with 15 clips and they can hold 20 in the round. Yeah, you're right, Susan. You're right. They rap about it all the time. I got that Uzi with 100 clips. I can just throw the 100 bullets in all the clips. Susan, you are the sub, Susan. You are on the subject. You are on the subject. I got nickels and dimes and 20 sacks. Yeah, you're right. Susan. All right, go ahead.
So the issue here is that these young kids, right? They're curious. But they get labeled in school from a very early age, and they're labeled as ADD and a bunch of other different things. But really, what it is that I remember early on that when I went to school, the teacher said to me that my daughter was making noise in school, and it turns out my daughter learned to read very early. I think maybe 2 years old, 3 years old, whatever it is. She was very, very young. Point is though, like she would finish her work and then she'd be bored. So when you're bored, you walk around and you mess with everybody else, right? And so we told her, so she ended up going a higher grade because they just weren't teaching her the thing. And what I'm getting at is a lot of kids are labeled as ADD or something wrong with them, when the truth is they're bored sick of what's put in front of them. So it starts early in terms of discouragement, right? And it continues all through high school and all through college, if they get to college. Most of them don't even get to college. But the point is, so you hear about technology you have to have a college degree for technology. That's what you hear all the time. And the truth is that a college degree. So let me just define once and for all what a college degree, as far as I understand. This is my version of it. You might have a different version. A college degree.
Some people pay $100,000 for this piece of paper. So break it down.
No comment. No comment.
Okay.
No comment. But I get what you said. Absolutely. So, but a college degree is simply, to me as an outsider, when you come to me and you say you have a college degree, it just tells me that you have a certain level of teaching that should help you to go gather information if you're tasked with something. That's the goal. In other words, when you go to school and you get a bachelor's degree, you're not expert in anything. They just taught you how. So when I interview a programmer, right? When I used to interview programmers, one of the first things that I give them a task and I see how they approach it. And oftentimes I throw something in there that I know they don't know. And it's perfectly fine to say, you know what, guys, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to go online and go find it. Because in real life, you're constantly learning. And you constantly have to search for information. You constantly have to go gather information and bring it back, right? So that's what I'm looking for. That's one of the things I'm looking for. So I'm looking for the ability to learn. Now, back to school and why we were talking about technology. So with that backdrop, okay, technology right now, artificial intelligence and other technologies, not just artificial intelligence and other technologies, it is affecting our community right now, right? It's affecting it in the way that it's expensive. So therefore, when we spend money on it, we're spending a lot of money that we don't technically have. Right. That's one of the problems we have. Now, the second part of the problem we have is we are taught by our parents mostly that you should go to school, you should learn new lessons, and then you should get a college degree and then go get a job.
Right.
That is the standard, and again. That is, as far as I'm concerned, that is the bare necessity. But that's only one tiny fraction of it.
That's a good question. Colin, let me ask this question. Siri says that's a great question. Why is the tech industry being dominated by Indians?
Why is it by Indians?
Yeah.
Very simple. I mentioned that this 970,000 people jobs go unfilled every year, right?
Right.
Okay, so it turns out that in Indian universities, and again, I'm sure somebody's going to come on here and correct me or adjust my answer, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to give you my best take on it because I've had quite a few over the years. Okay, what typically happens is in their universities, they teach them. If you go to a university here in the United States and you go to an engineering school, go to any school of engineering, I don't care where it is. If you go to a school of engineering, 90% or probably more than 90% of the students are foreign.
Okay.
Either directly from overseas or or immigrants. But they are foreign. They're not really local Native Americans. Okay. Now, let's go back to Indians because the question you asked me was about the Indians. So in their universities, they teach science is a very important aspect of their curriculum. And remember now, they don't have people in America discouraging them to pursue science or to tell you can't do it.
Right.
Right. So in addition to that, the H-1B visa process it helped them a lot. In other words, the visa process for them was a little easier than, let's say, somebody from China, because China had, issues up until recently. China is a communist country and so on and so forth. So there's a reason why a lot of the overseas people weren't from China. That might change in the future, but that was a big part of it. So India was one of the biggest suppliers where we could get people. Besides that, they speak English as a native, well, not a native language, but as a primary second language. So for those two reasons, they make good candidates. Okay. Now I've hired quite a few over the years, and from a skill set perspective, most of them are really beginners. Okay. That started to change because as more things develop in India, they get more experience, and you know what's happening also, Dynast, as India develops, people are staying home as well. They're not, you can get a reasonable, because salary used to be very small back then, but it's come some ways, But to answer your question specifically, they speak English, and it was a ready source of people, and they did not have anybody discouraging them. And then the one other thing I'm going to say is, talk about networking. They have it down pat.
Right.
We, in our community, we have no networking. What networking? Let me give you an example.
I'm going to give you an example after you give your example.
Okay. Well, go ahead and give yours, and then I'll give mine.
All right. So I do sales. So I remember when I was looking for other opportunities in sales, specifically in pharmaceutical sales or medical devices, I would go, if I saw a black medical device sales rep or a black farm rep, I would say, hey, I do sales, I'm interested in pharma, can you pass my resume to your manager or this, that, and the other? And they will always say, you need to go online and fill out an application. Now, me being in sales, you either get on with a headhunter or somebody so they would blow me off. But when I ended up getting my job with Centos, I would notice the white folks would bring in their people in and out that they knew personally. And a lot of the times they weren't even qualified. I had a guy, I had a manager. No, listen. I had a manager. So they were, my old company, they were very big on, you need to have around 4 to 5 years of prior sales experience as far as business to business. My manager came into the office one day. He's like, yeah, buddy. I was at the bar, in Manhattan Beach on a Saturday night, man. This bartender, man, she had a great personality, man. She was serving my drinks. I'm gonna bring her in for an interview. She got the job.
Just like that.
Just like that. We want to screen and, so what I started doing, if a brother came up to me and was like, look, I'm looking for opportunity, this is what I do. I immediately took his resume and took it to my boss. And, a lot of times he got the interview. Now, once he gets to the door, I can't, it's really in control. At the very least, I got him in the door and I felt good about it. But these other bougie Negroes, they, token Negroes, go online. I don't know if he's hiring. You got a hiring freeze. And I'm just like,
I remember I went on an interview, and there were two people in the room. One that looked like me and the Caucasian. And the questions they were asking me were simple. As far as I'm concerned, they were simple. They were basic questions. So anyway, I answered the questions quickly, no problem whatsoever. Good eye contact. I like to think my personality is reasonable. But anyway, the point is, I did the interview. I thought I was doing great. There was no question they asked me that I couldn't answer. Frankly, as I said, I think the questions they were asking me were reasonably basic, but I gave them the answer. Then the Caucasian guy got up and walked out and left the African American. I'm not going to say African American, but he wasn't African American, but he looked like me. Let's put it that way. And the guy started asking me more questions, and the more questions he asked me, the more I answered. At some point, it dawned on me, this guy thinks this is a competition.
Right.
Okay. And when the other guy came back, he said, this interview technically is over. Why are you still asking him questions? Needless to say, the guy left the room. When the guy left the room, I told the guy a few choice words, and I said, keep your job. And I walked out.
Right.
The one that looked like me.
Right.
We are our worst enemies, and we have to change that. The reality is
that really, I'm talking about Collie, that really bothered me.
Yes.
The thing about it is, it was like some close people that I know. I'll tell you the story as well. So when I graduated from the University of Georgia, I was asking around about sales jobs. And so the guy who recruited me, Ronnie Garner, he's the D-line coach at Auburn now. He knew a sales manager for a pharmaceutical sales company. So he said, hey, he'll interview you, go interview with him. So I'll go interview with him. And he'll keep telling me, well, you don't have the experience. But I love you. In fact, he'll do that. I love you. I love your attitude. I love, you're articulate, but you just don't have the experience. This is a brother. But then he'll call me back for another interview. So I'll drive from Atlanta to Gwinnett, which is like a 50-minute drive. Mm-hmm. I kept doing it. I'm sorry, from Athens to Gwinnett. I'm sorry, I was in Athens, Georgia.
That's a good little drive, my friend.
Well, it's not that bad. Well, at that time, because I was just out of college, I was broke.
Well, you were young, so yeah.
Yeah. So I would keep driving. He would just tell me the same thing. And so I'll go tell my coach, like, he wouldn't, advance me up or get me in front of somebody else. He would just tell me the same thing. He didn't understand. So I was personal training at the gym in the city called the Omni. I was a personal trainer when it first opened. And I remember white girls straight out of college, just graduated the day before. Yeah, what do you do? Oh, I do pharmaceutical sales. And I should be like, I just look like, but the black manager would not even at least say, you know what, brother, I'm gonna, go ahead and advance you. You can, at the very least that you meet with the, the person, the manager above me. But I'm telling you, Collie, these white girls like, yeah, I do pharmaceutical sales. I just graduated from UGA.
Yeah, I see that all the time. Honestly, Dennis, that's par for the course. A bad course, but a par for the course. You see it happen all the time, and I don't know. People they get around folks and they just lose their mind because they're not objective anymore. The other thing I'm going to give you one other example, and this one really hurt me badly because about 2 years ago we decided we did an internship.
Right.
So I said, look, guys, we put up the thing online and lots of resumes were coming in, and we picked 3 guys. And I'm partial. I like to look out for the young ladies because the truth is, it's a technology business that women, especially our, minority women, aren't represented at all. I mean, almost. Okay. So I go out of my way to try to help as well. And but female in general, but of course our people. The other question though is, the other thing was so this internship lasted the summer. My next door neighbor, I spoke to my next door neighbor and I was saying, look, do you know anybody? Do you know anybody who might be? And the son said, yeah, I have a friend who just graduated college and he isn't, he wants to get into the tech space and stuff like that. He did computer science, I think, or some computer technology or something like that. Anyway, I said, just get me his resume. And so long story short is that he came in after the resume, the application process was closed, and I looked at the resume and I said, okay, fine. I'm going to give you, because I know you, and obviously I know your friend who is my next door neighbor's son, I'm going to open the door for you. So I gave him the option I said to him, come on in. We're going to start on Monday. This Sunday night, first I asked him, did he have a car? He said, yes, he had a car. I said, do you have access to the car? He said, yes. I said, cool. So Monday morning, he's supposed to meet us at the office. And Sunday night, he called me and he says he can't make it. I said, well, what's the issue? And he starts to tell me a whole bunch of long stories about why he can't come. And I'm thinking to myself, is this kid for real? Or is this kid just, I mean, it's something that's happening. But in talking to the kid and talking to my next door neighbor's son, I realized there's nothing happening in his life. Long story short, we ended up with three participants. One Chinese, one Indian, one Chinese, one Indian, and one white. That's what we ended up with. No African Americans, no females, nothing. And when I look at that, I was so disappointed. I give everybody a chance. That's the way I operate. Everybody should get a chance, right? But when you have, especially my next door neighbor, I wanted to make sure that the son's friend get a chance. But one of the guys, the young Caucasian kid, he's from the Ukraine. He actually, I think he was born there and came here at a very young age. Point though is that he didn't have a car. So he got up, he took the train to Manhattan, and from Manhattan, he took a bus over into New Jersey to go to the office, and then get out of the thing and walked about almost a mile. That's how serious this kid was about learning. Now, let me tell you what the end result of that was. So we ended up with 3. Because of the AI experience they gained, that's going to tack on about $20,000, $30,000 on their salary. That's a big amount of money.
Yeah.
Right? And when you're starting out, and if somebody's going to offer you, let's say 100,000, and then because of this experience, you get another 20,000, 30,000, that's serious money. Okay? And what I'm saying is, we're not fighting enough for what we need. Okay? I did not meet that kid, but I would have loved to meet him, because I'd ask him, what was so difficult? You have a car and you couldn't drive there? You have access to a car and you couldn't drive there. So, that's just a microcosm of some of the ailments that are affecting our community. It's very important as parents in our community, because we're talking about, is technology going to, the jobs of tomorrow, frankly, the jobs of today and next week and tomorrow are all going to be tech related. If you are in a factory, you're going to be sitting around a computer console, which means you're going to have to understand some technical stuff, right? The old days of getting a job in a factory and you pack a box and put them on a skid and ship it out, those days are gone. You mentioned, Dynast, yesterday, that you went to this warehouse and the forklift is no longer manned.
Yeah.
So if you're a forklift driver, guess what? Bye-bye your job. Your job is gone. Okay? And guess what? The new forklift is cheaper. It never calls out sick. It never gets tired. And if you write the code properly, it won't make a mistake either. So from a jobs perspective, we're not prepared for the technology yet. $97 billion of technology jobs are out there on field every single year. And it's not coming to our community, so therefore we're certainly not benefiting from it. Okay? And we can complain that the system is set up to make us fail, but I can't tell you over my lifetime, people tell me I can't do this. And if you want to see me do something, tell me I can't do it. Right? We have to have that mindset, because there's always going to be people telling you can't do it. That's just a given. Family members will tell you can't do it. Friends will tell you. And by the way, when your family members tell you can't do it, they're not telling you necessarily out of meanness, although some do. But the vast majority are telling you because they doubt your capacity. You have never shown them the will to fight for something. right? You've never shown them the will to fight for something. So because of that, they get scared for you. All right. They think you're gonna go out and screw it up, or you're not gonna make it, and they get scared for you. So it's not all the time they mean you bad. It's just sometimes they look at you and they say, well, maybe you can't do so and so. Right? It's not. We have to change that mindset, because not everybody who tells us we can't do means us harm or means us bad. Not everybody. Not everybody. Not everybody. I know what you're saying. I preface it by saying there are some people who really do. Right. But I'm talking about family members. Some family members. You know your family member better. You know if they're rotten and no good. You know that already. I don't have to tell you that. You know that even before you try something. You know that. But I'm talking about, you go to some parents and they'll say, are you sure you want to do this? And they kind of try to discourage you because they don't think you can do it. But what you have to do is hold fast to what you believe and then go execute. Right? And if you fail, you start again. You start over. And you keep doing that until you're successful. In technology, guys, it's the only space, right? It's the only space that don't require a lot of money to start out. It requires a whole bunch of mental capacity. Okay? You have to learn, and you have to be willing to learn, and you have to spend a lot of time thinking. And a lot of people don't want to spend time thinking. Dennis, oftentimes people ask you a question, and if you ever make the mistake, like I often do, and instead of just giving them a straight answer, right, you give them the way you get the answer. In other words, they can figure it out for themselves. They don't want that. They say, just give me the answer.
Right. Yeah,
and then they come back next week with the same question.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. There's some questions you give the straight answer to.
And the summer's not. Gotcha. Understand.
Yeah. But then there's some questions, if you know they're going to come back with it next week or the next day and the next day and the next day, buddy, I'm giving you the means to go figure it out yourself. Mm-hmm. Okay? And even if you don't like it, that's what I'm going to give you, because, that's what you really need. You don't need to come to me every single time. It's kind of like if you're a supervisor, instead of people learning, let's say there's some data entry that they have to put into the computer. Instead of learning how to get to a particular menu or sub-menu, they keep asking it, how do I get there? How do I get there? Come on, man, that gets tired after a while. That tells me that you're not willing to take the time to figure out the system and learn it. Okay? When it comes to our community, the jury is out as to whether technology will help or hurt it. It will hurt it if we refuse to claim the technology space. If we keep thinking that our kids are not savvy enough to be a programmer at the age of 10, if we keep thinking that nonsense, if we keep thinking that, when I grew up, in the culture that I grew up, it was common for kids to be seen and not heard. In my house that I grew up in, it was common for kids to be heard and seen. Some of the best questions I had was conversation I had with my dad, going back and forth about certain things. He would say certain things to me, and I would say, well, I don't quite understand that. Or, why do you call it that? Or, why do you say this? And we go back and forth. And what that did was it fostered in me, and there are everybody here probably if you don't have a child, you probably have a niece or a nephew or a friend's child or whatever it is. So you have access to young people. And nothing discourages a young person than somebody tries to shut them up because they're young. In my house, there were no questions that my daughter couldn't ask me. None. Zero. Even when they're young, there were no questions they can ask me. The answer I give will depend on their age and a bunch of other things. But they should be able to ask you just about anything. Right. If you're an adult, my God, and they can't ask you, then who are they supposed to ask? That then leads to their curiosity. I'm going to call it quotient, their curiosity quotient. I said earlier, Diners, that a lot of the brightest in our community are being put in jail, right? Because they're bored. they go to school and there's no relationship between what they're learning in school and and their life. You know, when we were building Argon, when we were building it from the early parts of Argon, do you know, Dennis, that the information that we were using, a good chunk of that we learned in elementary school?
Oh, wow.
Oh, yes. You know, a verb, a pronoun, you know what, an adjective. When you're teaching something to learn, you have to go through the basics, right?
Right.
So I learned those things when I was, I don't know, so long ago, but I learned in elementary school. Little did I know that what I was learning in elementary school was going to come back and be very important.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One of the things that programming and just technology does is they don't teach it in school that way, but they should, because problem solving is the way you learn. You truly learn. Problem solving is the way you truly learn. I can safely say this, and my niece is studying for the MCATs, and I was explaining to her that I couldn't I couldn't cram. You know, like you have an exam the next day and you cram. I couldn't do that.
Okay.
I had to learn it. Mm-hmm. So consequently, even 5 years, 10 years later, I could still take those exams and pass them because I couldn't cram.
Right.
Okay. This whole cramming process to me is crazy because you're learning something and 5 minutes later it's gone. Okay. Understanding. My dad used to say, you used to always ask why. Why is very important, because why deconstructs a thing and breaks it down to its basic elements. And once you understand the basic elements, then you can go forward. In a math exam, the very first thing I do in a math exam is I sit down and derive all my formulas. I can't remember them, so I just sit down and derive all of them. And then I use them in my, the exam, right? Because I know how the formulas get, how you derive a formula. And so that level of understanding stays with you for life. The same thing is true in learning, everything we do. So in our community, and I'm curious for the audience out there who are listening and to this program, what are some of the memories you guys have where you actually, your teacher was teaching something and you kept asking why? And how did that end up if you kept asking why? If you haven't done it, then that's fine. But if you have, if you ever find yourself in a situation like that, whether it's your teacher or maybe your parent, right? How did it end? And were you satisfied in terms of understanding or getting the answer that you were pursuing as a young person? And I have another question. In your background, is that something that was fostered? In other words, was it something that was discouraged or something that was encouraged? Okay, because I believe that if it wasn't encouraged, it leads to people settling. In our community, the jobs are here, the technology jobs are here, but we're not qualified for it. Training programs, Dynast, are superficial. Most of the training programs are superficial.
Okay, expand on that.
Typically what often happens is when let's say a plant closed down, right? They have these little training programs and they say we're going to retrain the factory workers to go fix a computer or fix this or fix that, right? But really what happens is these programs, when they're designed by people who really just are there to make money, they're really not there to teach you anything substantive. So as a result, very few people complete these courses. And if they do complete the courses, they can't really get a job because they really don't know anything. Okay? To learn something and thoroughly understand it, you really have to spend time with it. And if you're talking about cramming something quickly and not spending time with it, especially when you're under stress because you just lost a job and they give you, 2 months to learn something new. You're learning under stress, my friend. And when you learn under stress, you're not going to really retain much. So that's for that reason, Dynast, I'm saying those programs aren't really good. At least that's my take on that. Others can disagree with me, but the truth is that's my That's how I view those things. If you're learning under stress and there's a time frame for you to learn, that's extremely difficult to concentrate. The best way to learn is at your pace. Okay? The best way to learn is at your pace. In our community, we don't have the networking skill set. So one of the things we do in Vision 2020 is we encourage people. If you're on a job and you hear of another job, another opening, or even if you're not here of another opening, ask about it and then go find one or two friends. I'm going to say something that might be controversial, but it shouldn't be.
Go ahead, say it. Go ahead.
We have this mentality that I don't know where it comes from, but it's obvious that we all experience it to some degree. Dynast, if I'm on a job, I'm going to use me as a little example. This is not, I would never do this, but I see it happen all the time. So a position comes, it opens up, but it opens up 2 levels above me.
Okay.
Now I have a friend, quote unquote, who is qualified for the job. Okay, but if I tell my friend about this thing, he's going to come in as my boss's boss. So you know what I do? Keep my mouth shut. I say nothing. Okay? Why is that? Why do we do that?
You know, I want to interject for real quick. My former job, like if there was a position open, like upper management, they already knew who they were going to hire. They would go through the process of interviewing, but they already knew, like they already had a succession plan. They knew.
That's true. So the majority of jobs comes from the internal group, but I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. Okay, I've seen people and then what happens is that the person ends up losing their job or get fired, and there's nobody to protect them because guess what? See, that guy who would have been your boss, your friend would have been your boss, our boss's boss, could have stepped in, and when they're laying people off, you would have been the one remaining. But no, you don't think you should go and tell them about the job and try to get them in the door. Or frankly, even on the same level as you. Okay? The other thing I'm going to suggest, and I strongly suggest this, whenever a job opening is available and you know of the job opening, do not, absolutely do not do the interview yourself. What do I mean by that?
Yeah, what do you mean?
Okay. So Dynast, oftentimes, so a position comes up. Somebody, knows the position.
Right.
The person says, okay, I don't think that person can do that job. In other words, that person is saying he don't think their friend or whoever else can do that job. What are you doing at that point? What you're doing at a point is you are filtering out that candidate. And it happened, we had an opening. This is a long time ago, but we had an opening. And I said to the guys below me, I said, look, if you know of anybody, please let them know that there's an opening, okay? That's why most jobs are filled by internals, because if you know somebody from the inside, or you're part of the inside network, you get the job, even if it's advertised. You may have to advertise it sometimes, just for formality's sake. But the point is that the person actually knew about somebody. And what happened is they, I guess, concluded for themselves that the person couldn't do the job. So as a result, they didn't come to me and tell me anything about it. Okay. Another position opened up. Actually, the 2 positions were there, but only one that person was aware of. Now, it turns out I ended up seeing the resume eventually. And I was so mad because I said, who are you to determine whether or not this person should come in here and do the interview? Who are you? Let me choose. Don't filter for me. Even if the person isn't qualified for that. And by the way, it turns out the person would have been qualified for the other job. But the other job went to somebody else. Okay, I found out this after the fact. What I'm getting at is, please don't interview the person. Your responsibility is to give the interviewer or the personnel the resume and let them do their job.
Mm-hmm.
If they decide the person is not qualified for the job, then they'll say, sorry, you're not qualified for the job. But it's none of your business. It's not your business to say that person, or you feel that they might come in here and embarrass me. That's the other thing. I get resumes all the time over the years. And people give me these resumes and they say, this person's qualified. I bring them in, I interview them, and I realize they're not qualified.
Right.
The next position that's opened up, that same person gives me another resume. They have in other words, their networking skills are much better than us.
Mm.
So consequently, when you see one, you see two and three, and the next thing you know, 15. But when you see us, you only see one.
Right. And we're proud to be the
only one walking around town.
We're proud to be, and we wear it with such pride. We're proud.
Oh my gosh, we wear it with such pride.
I already know.
Honestly, that thing makes my blood boil, because it is not your job to do the interview. It is your job or responsibility as a friend or a family or acquaintance or just somebody in your network to pass the resume on and shut the hell up, so to speak. It's not your job to do the interview. Let them, because you don't know what other conditions may, like I said, there were other opportunities that you don't necessarily know about. Okay? And by all means, one of the things as an executive, in corporate America,
mm-hmm.
Almost every position I was the only one. Do you think I was happy with that? No.
But there are a lot of people like us, that look like me and you, who are happy with that.
I get that. I know that. That's
okay.
Remember the interview I was telling you about I walked out of?
Yeah.
It's the same situation. I was a threat, I think. But why was I a threat? Why was I a threat? I mean, he doesn't know me as a person.
There's a so-called unwritten rule, amongst Black folks in corporate America that they think there is a status quo, like there only can be one token Negro per like special or upper management position. So and that's been for some reason is unwritten. It's been like ingrained in us mentally. That's why when we get to a certain level in corporate America, we feel threatened when we see somebody like us advancing up the ladder, because we think that they might take our role.
And that is unfortunately so wrong, because the truth is, in my experience, the more the merrier. Right. And funny enough, I mean, it just so happened that oftentimes, when you rise up, there's office politics. You know that right. It exists everywhere, right?
Right.
And when you are a pioneer in African American or just minority, or even a young lady, because women have some of the same issues that we have in terms of the fact that they get shut out and they get closed out of these things, right? It's not just a male thing; it's a women thing as well. But the point is that this whole, you need more than one of you in these. That's why I'm saying the other people, the other folks, they don't filter the person. They say, again, as I said, Dennis, they give me some resumes. Sometimes I say, guys, please don't give me no more resume, because these resumes, they're people not qualified, man. Find somebody qualified and give me. But you know what? They give me the resume same way over and over and over. And you know what happens, Dennis? If one slips through the crack and you hire them, they sit down together and teach the new one the ropes.
Of course.
Because they look out for each other. Okay. So, Vision 2020, we wanted to make sure we put this whole concept of networking we wanted to make sure we incorporate that because it's a critical piece. Most jobs, as Dinus just pointed out, most jobs are filled from the inside.
Right.
And the further up you go, the smaller number of people who know about those jobs.
Right.
Okay, that's just the way it is, guys.
Like they'll post a job on the.
They have to exactly
because it's corporate policy or for procedure.
Correct. But it's gone.
They already know who they're gonna hire. Like they'll go through the interview process, play the game, but they already know who they're gonna hire.
But guys, the reality is that if I was in one of those positions, when I'm no longer working for corporate America, I'm working for myself. But when I was in corporate America, and a position comes, I'd do the same.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody in my network came along and said, "Hey, I need a job," and they qualify for the thing, they were not getting a job.
Right.
Your network is your network, guys. Your network is your network, and the same way, Dinus, you wouldn't take your kids' lunch money and give it to somebody else. You're just not going to do that, right? You look out for your family first, and then you look out for your friends next, and so on and so forth, until your network gets until you become until you get to the general public.
Right.
So it's important that we get in and we look out for each other. It's networking that's going to increase the number of jobs that we have. It's networking that's going to secure you in a job. Okay? Networking is critical. And as I said, do not filter the resumes. Don't, I know, you might be saying to yourself, this person might come in and embarrass me. Oh, really? When they hired you, were you an embarrassment? Were you an embarrassment? Because the same way you're judging people, somebody could have judged and says, hey, you're an embarrassment. I'm not going to hire you. Right? Don't do it, guys. Don't do it. And when you tell this to everybody else, don't do it. It's a bad policy. It's important that you do not filter it. Let the PR, the personnel department, let the interviewer, the whole operation, let them do their jobs. It's not your job. Just get the resume and hand off the resume. And that's and put in a good word for the person too. Don't just hand off the resume. Talk up the person. Talk up the person. In an interview, the first 5 minutes, you know if you, the interviewer, know if you're going to hire that person or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The next 30 minutes or 40 minutes or however long the interview lasts deals with you justifying your original gut feeling. That's what happens. By the way, you can Google that. It's not. I'm not making this up. It's a actual thing. The first 5-10 minutes of your interview, in fact, the first 5 minutes, you pretty much, because then you start to. So first, you pass the likability test, and somebody's going to say, if I'm going to have to pass the likability test, I'll never get a job.
Right.
That's not true. That's not true. Some of the biggest opportunities I've gotten over the years were given to me by people who don't look like me.
Me too.
That's just the way it is. And some of the biggest obstacles I had were people who look like me.
Me too. Me too.
Right? That's the facts, right? Those are facts. Okay? So let's just call a spade a spade. What my job as an employee was to make my boss look good. That was my job. Get the job done. So when he gave me something to do, I was going to execute it and make him look good. And as he rose, I rose. And that's how it works. Okay? If you have a policy like that, you will do well in corporate America. Or corporate anything. Frankly, corporate anywhere. Corporate Africa, corporate anywhere you go. Corporate India, corporate anywhere you go.
Repeat that again so people can hear that.
Your job, your responsibility as an employee is to make your boss look good. Okay. And as a result, if your boss looks good, your whole department, your whole division, whatever else looks good. Okay? So when the boss gives you something, you're supposed to go at it and make yourself indispensable on the job. I was one of the most knowledgeable on every job I've been on. I'm one of the most knowledgeable, if not the most, but that's for somebody else to conclude that. But I'm just making the point. I knew I was the go-to person. I made myself the go-to person. Okay, about what the job was all about. So when there was a question, go ask Collie. Go ask Collie. Go ask Collie. So my first big promotion came. Actually, I was going on an interview for a job, and I went back to work the next day, and I was told, "You're vice president." Behind my back, they made me vice president. Right, and it was a vote by a number of people in the department. Right. And I was pleased that they thought that I was, but I asked them afterwards when everything settled down why they chose me, and they said, because we know you will deliver. We know that our department is going to do a stellar job. So my reputation was working. Okay. And when you're on a job, and if you're not, if you just go to the job and you go there and you just want to get a check and you're out at 5 p.m. and that's it. I have news for you. When it's time, when things go bad, you're one of the first persons to be gone.
Right.
To be waved goodbye at the door, take you to the box and leave. Okay. In the technology space, I said before, you ask on one of the questions they ask, on one of the comment section, they ask about certificate. And I think you asked about certificate. And I said, what was Bill Gates' certificate when he got hired by IBM to write code for them? Somebody said Bill Gates didn't write code. That's not true. Bill Gates wrote code, but he also bought code. So he did both. Okay. But I like when these people come up with these crazy things like, oh, they have some kind of conspiracy type crazy, conspiracy theorists always find a reason for something. But the truth be told is the guy wrote code. He was 14 years old when he was rewriting his high school's payroll. So guess what? Bill Gates at the age of 14 knew who was making what and how much, because he was rewriting the program for his high school payroll department. Okay. But to come back to the certificate piece we're talking about, it's about, Dennis, it's about what you have here, not a piece of paper.
But now, would you say the piece of paper gets you in the door?
Piece of paper might get you an interview, but we're talking about technology here. Technology is a little different. Let me just, this is something, again, this is about, and this is really important for the community because if the community don't understand why technology is slightly different from traditional business. So you go to school, two people, one go and they get a history degree. I don't know what you're going to do with a history degree except to tell somebody you have a degree. It's like horticulture, okay? And then somebody does computer science. And let's say they learn programming, right? When I look at a resume for a programmer, what am I looking for? Typically, I have a job, and there's a job definition for it, okay? It might be that we have a client that's going to need some database work, and the client's going to need some screens created, and the client's going to need maybe, and the screens, by the way, would be back-end type screens, because there's the whole web front end. I'm not addressing that because that's a little bit, most people I think have some idea what that is because they deal with it. But I'm talking about more back-end stuff. Okay, so I look at that and I say, okay, in order to a good client, a good client must have worked in a team. That's the first requirement. Work in a team. And one of the things I'm going to ask them is, what happened when there was a disagreement in the team? What happened when you had a disagreement with a team member? Because it's important to me that you have that we have a team that can work together, right? I'm entrusting you with 100 plus $100K plus of salary, right? But I'm also entrusting you with my project.
Right.
Okay. I don't want you to come in here and be, you're antisocial. That's the one. 2, you don't work good in a team. 3, you've never worked in a team, so you have no experience what it is in a team. So I'm not going to take a chance on you. Period. End of story. I'm not going to take a chance on you. Okay. So you work as a team. That's cool. My next thing is going to say, okay, so let me see what you have done. Let me look at your resume. I see that, you worked, you created, and I'm not so much looking for how much time you spend on something. I'm looking for what you created. I know people who don't know much about technology will look at, okay, you spent 2 years. Let me tell you something, guys. It's not how long you do something, it's how good you do it. Okay? I don't care how long you did it. I just want to know you can do it damn good. And if you can do it really good, that's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to look at your resume and I'm going to look at the projects you work on. And I'm going to ask you about some of those projects. Because oftentimes, the resume would be close to things that we're doing already, right? And so I'm going to ask you, so how did you solve this problem? Right? And I might throw in, just to see how you react, I might throw in a scenario that could have existed in your project to see how you respond to it. And you say, okay, tell me how you solve that. And then, of course, depending on how they respond to it, that gives me a good clue as to how they're going to fit into the workplace. So that is, if you can pass that, I don't care what your resume look like. I don't care what your resume look like. What matters, right? If you come to my interview and I pose a scenario and you solve the scenario and raise me one, you're hired on the spot. Because Dennis, what it's telling me is you can more than do this thing. And as a corporate person, I don't want, look, I have to answer to people as well. So therefore, I don't want you to come and be a weak link in my downline, so to speak. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that you can do that job. And that's why I'm saying a college degree is what it tells me is that you are educated, but it doesn't tell me you can do my job. Now, if you're talking about a clerk position, it's a whole different ballgame, right? Because a clerk's position is not a professional position. And 95% of people who graduate college don't work in the same field they do their studies.
True. Here's my diploma right here. Hold on. So once I was Albert Horton Hollis II before I legally changed my name. University of Georgia, agricultural business. Bam.
Exactly.
That's my diploma. I did sales. The whole.
Exactly. So, but so that's what we're looking for in this. So this information that I'm volunteering, guys, is for those of you in the audience. It's an insight as to the approach we have taken in technology and the approach we need to take. Right. Yesterday, I spent some time talking about. We're only 6% and 2%. Those two numbers, 6% is the total number of African Americans in that community. In that, we're underrepresented. We're underrepresented in college. We're underrepresented in not just college, but also in the science of the STEM programs. We're underrepresented. Okay, so and the jobs that are coming our way, majority of them are going to require quite a bit of technology knowledge. Okay, years ago, Dynasty, long before you were born, there used to be a thing called secretarial work,
right,
where the ladies learn to type.
Right.
What happened to that job? Because everybody types now, right? You have a computer, so everybody has to type.
Well,
so that job disappeared.
At my old job, our office had an office secretary.
Oh, well, there you go. But it's the dying profession. Okay. They become receptionists now, and they do a lot more than that.
Okay, so we had a receptionist and we had a secretary.
Yeah, stenographer, typist, or whatever it is. Man, that's so.
Let me stop. We had a receptionist and we had an office manager.
Oh no. Office. You need an office manager. If you have a big company, you need an office manager.
Okay, but what's the difference between an office manager and secretary?
Okay, so an office manager manages the office. So imagine you have So imagine Dinah starts a company. Your the stuff you sell starts to take off. So you realize, look, I have to go hire 100 people. So, so there's an office. Literally, you're gonna have an office where people are every day, right? They come into the office. They're gonna need computers. They're gonna need printers. They're gonna need paper for the printer. They're going to need a whole bunch of stuff. They're going to need toiletries. They're going to need all that kind of stuff. An office manager manages all of that.
Okay.
Literally manages all of that.
You're right, because our office manager did that. So office manager, if you ever watch this, I'm sorry for reducing you to a secretary, because you did order all.
No, I'm office manager.
You were over the office finances and budget and account.
There's lots of things that the office manager do, man.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay. I accept your apology on their behalf.
Okay. No, you're right.
Yeah, but what my point is that technology comes along and wipes out certain jobs and creates new opportunities. Artificial intelligence is going to come along and wipe out some jobs and create new opportunities. What I spent a good chunk of the last program, guys, and if you haven't, go search on Dynas's channel and you'll see yesterday's program. But yesterday I talked a lot about, technology, how the technology itself is going to change jobs, so technology is a neutral thing. I know some people disagree with me, but it's a neutral thing. It give it and it take it. In other words, it wipes some job out and it creates new jobs. What I'm saying for our community is we have to understand that's exactly what it does, which means that when a new technology comes along, it is our responsibility to make sure that we are up on it. It's in our wheelhouse, so to speak. We are masters of it, which means that the opportunities that it brings, we can take advantage of it. And and the opportunities that it eliminates, or the jobs that it eliminates, we're not part of those jobs. Okay? Or if we were part of those jobs, because we have this new skill, we will be kept over. So if you imagine, let's say GM decides they're going to close a whole line. When you see typical images of or videos of GM workers, you see them on a line tightening up stuff, right? 95% of that can be done by a robot. And the robot is going to do that thing consistent every single time. So instead of having 15 people or 30 people tightening up wrenches, you might have one person sitting at a computer console. That requires some technical expertise, right? If you are that one person on that line, guess who they're going to keep? That one person on that line. Everybody else gets redundant. Everybody else gets, maybe, I guess, fired or redundant, however they do it, right? But technology is not our enemy. It's our friend.
Right.
And you cannot stop technology no matter how much we may despise it or we may hate it. It is here to stay. It has always been. Can you imagine if you were in the lantern business back in the early, let's say, 1900, late 1800, the street lantern business? You'd be out of business today, correct? Because street lights are now, they're now, electric lights.
Let me interject. What industry do Black people, I guess, support a lot that is going to be disrupted here shortly, or just in general? What industries right now should we jump into? I know you mentioned AI, but what other industries are that are on the verge of being disrupted as we speak?
So, if you're in a job that is a manual job that requires any kind of it's a repetitive action. If the job causes your finger or your arm, for you to have to put those braces on, consider getting out of that job soon, because robots are going to take those jobs. Between AI and robotics, your job is gone. Okay, and it's as the price of robots get less and less and less and less, the types of jobs that they do and who can afford them will increase, right? In other words, as the first car was very expensive, but cars over the years are just like the first VCR was thousands of dollars. Now you get a VCR. Well, there's no VCR now, but the point is, you get the idea. As the technology starts to spread widely, the cost of it comes down, the unit cost comes down. So robotics and artificial intelligence will eliminate all those jobs. So if you have a job where you're doing something, and I'm not talking about a chef, because a chef is an expert job, right? Mm-hmm. I'm talking about you're in a factory setting, and you have a job where the job itself requires you to do repetitive motions. those jobs are going to be those are one of the first ones to go. Okay, if you are in a job, and I'm going to talk about a white collar job because people always think this is going to affect just blue collar jobs, but it's going to affect white collar jobs. If you work in a legal office and part of your job is to do research on cases, right? Let's say I bring a case against somebody and I hire a law firm. One of the things they have to do is they have to do the research on the case. Pretty
soon all that be on the blockchain, right? Or
well, I'll explain blockchain a little bit, but let me just finish this point and then I'll come back to it. There's a very important point you just brought there, which is blockchain. Let me just finish this. So what happens now is they have software right now that will go in and go through LexisNexis and find those caseloads and bring them in for you. You don't need a person to do that anymore. Because AI, it can look at the technology, it can look at it has large samples of things that it's using as a experience. In technology, we use large sample or data sets as a proxy for experience. And so, a legal assistant, your job is iffy. Let's put it that way. Okay. If you work at a fast food joint, okay, your job is easily outsourced. That's just the reality of the situation to a robotic, AI type situation. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because again, Dynast, the audience right now, all they have to do is just go online, Google GM assembly line, and look at the sophistication of some of those robots. Mm-hmm. Go online and Google the warehouse automation and see what Dynast was talking about. Guys, it's out there already. It's not like this is technology. This is not technology that is coming 500 years from now. It's just not widespread. The cost of it is still kind of, I'm going to say, sort of prohibitive. But the reality is that that is another set of jobs that are going to be, any kind of warehouse situation, you're in trouble. Okay. Now, what about things like self-driving cars? How's that going to affect? One of your audience members says they would never fly in a plane with no passenger, with no pilot. Okay. Well, you know what? We say that now. I remember when years ago, Dynast, people used to say, "I'm not going online. I'm putting my credit card online because."
That's still I only shop online. Like unless when I go outside of when I go to Africa to buy fabric in the markets. When I'm in America, I don't buy crap in the store.
No, but people used to tell me and say, they're not going to go online and buy anything because they're scared. And now Amazon is a filthy rich company. Let's put it that way. So my point is that people speak their nervousness and not reality. The reality is that when it becomes total commonplace norm, you do it and won't even think about it. It'll be a no-brainer. Like, okay, so why did they even need a pilot? The great grandkids are going to come up and say, well, why did you need a pilot to begin with? Or why did you need, it's like, the old rotary phones, the kids are asking, so why did you have to do all the way around with the little rotary piece where you kind of made the little rotary, like, why did you have to do that? No, why did you just press it? Well, no, technology wasn't as sophisticated then, but they can't relate to it because it's not even in their wheelhouse, so to speak.
All right.
And the same thing is going to happen with technology. So I think I covered a couple of spaces. Any kind of a warehouse factory type situation, you're in trouble. Right. If you're in things like a fast food joint, and I'm talking about fast food joint, I'm talking about like more standardized fast food joints, like a McDonald's or a KFC, where they can standardize things at the headquarters and then percolate that out. Those are primary candidates. Why do you have to talk to somebody when you come there when you say you want your chicken or you want your burger? You can talk to an AI and Argon. You can talk to Argon. That's one of the things you can do. Argon has that ability to actually become your secretary, your office manager, so to speak. It's a capability in Argon that we've built into Argon that we sell to companies. So I'm just telling you guys, I'm just a messenger here, so don't hate the messenger. I'm just a messenger telling you that from a technology perspective, some jobs are going to be gone, but for every job that goes, there are going to be other jobs created. So you're going to need the technical background you get from a Vision 2020 type program is going to hold you in good stead, because even if you become a doctor or a dentist, right? There is if you're a doctor, for example, IBM has a thing where they use Watson to you dump a whole bunch of data into Watson, a whole data set, billions and billions of bytes of information. Not billions, I mean terabytes and terabytes of stuff. And then the AI comes in and looks at patterns, because what artificial intelligence is about patterns, right? You're looking for patterns to see, what these patterns indicate. If you search for intelligent life out of space, you look for certain telltale signs of intelligence, but those telltale signs are patterns that you're looking for. And the same thing is true. So a Watson type AI or an Argon type AI, we have these large data sets that we use, and it's these data sets that we use to help analyze and come back with information and help you make decisions. So you can look at, for example, let's say you did.
We're going to go about 10 more minutes, and I have to.
Okay. Go ahead. Awesome. So the point, though, is that the things like medicine and so forth, all of those jobs are going to be related. If you're in a doctor's office, for example, the more technology you understand, the more you'll be able to assist that doctor in terms of getting them up to speed in terms of running the operation. Because you may have to set up a remote telemedicine, thing and get that going for the doctor. So that's from the question you asked me, Dynast. That's one of it's going to affect a lot of jobs. I mean, obviously, I just gave you a tiny little set. There's a lot more jobs it's going to affect, right? Mm-hmm. Is there any question anybody in the audience have that they want to ask?
There are a lot of questions, but the thing is, I'm like, because there are so many questions, if you want your question asked, you're gonna have to super chat it, because there's questions after question. So if you want your question and acknowledged, so you're gonna have to super chat it, because I'm just being bombarded with questions. So
all right, I figured, Dennis, this is one of those things where this is a topic that really requires, it's not a one-day type thing.
All right. So
you can't deal with all of these questions right now.
You come back on when you're free.
Exactly. And by the way, guys, again, if you have, if you want to reach out to me, you can always reach out at Vision 2020. Keep the questions for, those types of questions for another program that you'll have down the road. But if you have, if you want to, know more about Argon and what we do and how we do it, or you want to, we also go on for the Vision 2020. We go and speak in front of audiences. So if you have a church, or you have a school, or you have an organization that you want us to come speak, again, reach out to us. We'll take a look. We'll evaluate it. We can't guarantee we're going to come to all of these, because we would never have time to do anything, right? But we do want to hear from you in terms of that. And in terms of the community, I believe that people like myself, and there are other people like me out there, who my family, because it's not just me, by the way, my daughter and my wife, it's three of us. It's a team effort, guys. And let me tell you something. No way will I be here without my wife and my daughter. They are the unsung heroes here. So at some point, Dennis, you'll get to meet her. Very smart, very sharp, not because of my daughter, but but she is very much up on something like this. But we do reach out to speak to audiences, because it's important that our group of people, our people, understand that technology is here, it's accessible. We've made it such that you can use a tablet, or you can use a Chromebook, or you can use a PC to access this. You don't need much bandwidth. So if you are in some country where the bandwidth is extremely expensive, you can still do this program because we use tiny amounts. You know, one song, one music video would do will you'd have about one whole week worth of argon back and forth in data wise that you get in one song. You see what I'm saying? So so we really made things efficient, and we considered that the technology is, you know, we needed to be in places like Africa. You know, my daughter's going to be heading to Nigeria later this year. So, you know, we want to also bring this there and bring this throughout where, you know, African Americans and Africans, generally speaking, are. This is a worldwide thing that we're rolling out here. We want you to go ahead and tell your friends about it and tell your friends about it. We talked about networking. Well, here's a case where I'm asking you to network. Okay. And also, as you're networking, tell them about Dynasty's program. Because the reality is that we have to help each other. We have to spread, you know, for him to get to, you know, 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 people, subscribers, you guys are going to have to do some legwork. Go out and tell people about it, send the link to them, and then so on and so forth. So we want you to go out and tell people about Argon, tell people about Vision 2020, and tell people that this can be done. This is doable. And Dynast, we said it's inexpensive. There's really no excuse for people not to be able to do this, right? We're not charging. And you can go online and you can buy programs, okay? There are classes you can sign up on, but you're gonna pay money. But what my experience with those is that oftentimes you sign up and you never finish it because you need more than just that initial interest. You need things to solve, problems to solve, and that's where the trouble comes in, because you're gonna get fed up very fast just reading about programming. You actually have to write the code and test it and get the satisfaction from running the code and see that it works, and then you can show your friends and show off on your friends, and then go back and write some more, and you keep doing that over and over until you become an expert at it. That is what it takes to become a good programmer. That's what it takes to understand technology. You need rewards along the way. Otherwise, you will fail. You will get tired of it. You will, after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months, you don't want to read another line of code. Okay? The website, as Dennis just put there, is argon.com. If you go to argon.com, there's a video actually on the homepage, so you can actually click on that and watch it. Okay? That's my daughter. So if you want to see what she looks like, you can go there and click on that. That's my daughter. All right. I know some people are curious, so you know. But nevertheless, this I believe, Dennis, to sum up the whole thing, I believe that the jury is out. I believe because of people like myself and others who we might not be in this chat here, but other places, I believe people like us are saying that technology is our domain, and we have to master it like how we mastered tennis, and like how we mastered golf, and how we mastered basketball, and how we mastered football, American football, right? And like how Brazil mastered soccer. We have to tell ourselves that we can master it, and then we have to go out and do the work of mastering. All right, Vision 2020 is just one way. Okay, it's just one way to do it. You can do it on your own. You can go out and learn programming on your own. But my experience tells me that you need that challenge. You need that thing to code against to become a really good programmer. All right. I don't know, Dennis, is there anything else that I needed to cover? Because
no, not really. I mean, you want to come on Sunday? I mean, you just tell me when you want to come back on. I mean, there's so much we can't come.
Yeah. You know what, Dennis? Let me do this.
Go ahead.
So your team is going to reach out to me. So let me. I'm going to reach out to you in the week. Let's just chat in the week. Okay. And we can arrange. We can then set up another time when we're going to do it like that. Because I need to look at my schedule to see kind of like how This week coming up is going to be an interesting week for me, so that's why I'm kind of hesitant to that. But certainly maybe the following week. But we'll talk before that.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good.
So with that, guys, again, if you want to reach out to me, vision2020@argon.com. Some of you have reached out to me already. I've set up interviews with a few of you, and some of you have reached out to me from, they want to do programs in other countries as well, like Nigeria, Ghana, and so far nobody from Rwanda has reached out to me yet, but we don't know. But the point is, this initiative is a worldwide initiative. Okay, this initiative is also going to be in the United Kingdom. So if you have a friend or family member in the United Kingdom, they have a similar situation to us, or Canada, a similar situation to us. So this program is also available in Canada and the United Kingdom. Okay, so if you have a family friend, tell them about Vision 2020, tell them about Argon, because in Canada, 182,000 jobs are unfilled.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in the United Kingdom, 57,000 jobs are unfilled. And all of these are high-paying jobs. So for that reason, we Vision 2020 is a worldwide thing. But what I would like for our people to do is to latch onto this and to run with it, because everyone, this is open to everybody. Okay, it's open to everybody. We do not discriminate. But what I'm trying to do is encourage our people, encourage your friends and family to take advantage of this now. Take advantage of this now, because don't wait for others to come in and then others, take advantage of it because they're learning, and then you start to complain later on like, oh, you didn't give me this, you didn't give me that. We need to get beyond that, guys. We need to get to the point where we are responsible. Okay, it's our responsibility to spread the word. There are lots of other things we can talk about at some other time in terms of tech space that are more specific. So those programs wouldn't be as wide as this one, Diners. We can sort of narrow it down a little bit.
Yeah, like I said, whenever you're free.
Yeah. What we will do, guys, going forward is we kind of narrow it down a little bit, and we pick like a subject area that's more specific, because for some of you, you might want to, we might cover 6 or 7 shows, but each one has something specific, and you can bring your friends and bring your family. And also, Diners, is there a way for you to like broadcast ahead of time so they know, like, okay, a week ahead of time this show is going to happen? Because
I can. Just tell me, give me a date and time, and I can do it. So just let me know.
Awesome. Because what we want to encourage people to do, Dynasty, is we want to encourage people to come to the show, to come to your show ahead of time. Because call your friends. If it's something, we want you to come to your show all the time. Every time you have a show, we want you to be there.
Right.
But we know people. We know that sometimes we have to kind of spike you to get you to do something. So we want you to reach out. First subscribe to his channel. That's the first thing you should do.
Please.
Okay? Because it's your subscription why this show is on right now. Okay, guys, it's not free. Dinah's time is important. Okay, let me say it again. Dinah's time is important, and you're obviously getting something from it because you're here watching it and listening to us. Okay, so don't take his time for granted. Right? That means that you're obligated to go out and reach out to a few people in your network.
What's funny? We'll close out. I was looking at some of my analytics. 53% of the people who watch this channel are not subscribers.
And that's crazy. That's crazy, guys. Seriously.
Yeah, I was just scratching my head. Like 53, only 37. Like I think it was like, I forgot what how the breakdown was. I remember like 53%. The majority of people who watch Search for Who are not subscribers. I just looked at that, like
that's crazy.
I was just like,
I have a question for the people who are not subscribers. Subscribers, I know you're going to watch this at some point. So I have a question for you. How is he supposed to continue this show? If you're just watching and you're just going away, how is he supposed to? Subscriptions help him to get this thing monetized. Okay, it's critical that you subscribe, guys. There's no free ride. There's nothing free in life. Everything you get in life, somebody has to pay a price for it, and he is. He's investing his time. He travels. He records. You know, he could be on the beach in for all I know in Cote d'Ivoire or Senegal
Listen,
relaxing.
I can be in corporate America making a ton of money.
Ton of money.
You know, and going to Zanzibar, you know, running around the beach in my Speedo, you know.
Exactly.
Rio de Janeiro, you know, but
But that's the point. So again, folks, it's not enough to watch the show. It is important. It is critical. It's a critical part of this whole thing that you subscribe. I watched the show about 2 or 3 times and then I subscribed. Okay, because I realized the value of subscription. And I subscribed a long time ago, not just because I wanted to talk to him now. I subscribed a while back.
Here we go. Watch time from subscribers. 58.6% of the people who watch Search for Who are not subscribers.
So, and that's just, guys, again, it's unfair. It's unreasonable. You know, I'm going to shame you into subscribing because the reality is that he's putting a lot of work to get the show to where it is. Okay. It's the work that he did. Why I saw him, why I'm talking to you. It don't come free. He's investing time. When we're talking on the phone, you're busy doing something else. And then you come home and you can watch the show and you can learn something from it. And, you know, you can be edified. So you at least owe him a subscription and at least recommending it to 5 or 6 people. I'm sure you have 5 or 6 people in your network you can send it to. You do that with Instagram. You do that with Facebook. You do that with all these other networks. And you're making them a fortune. Why not do it for him? So you can get more programs like this. So you can get more, you know, edifying things that will that lift you up and lift up the community in general. Okay, so please go ahead, subscribe, and recommend it. Don't just subscribe, but recommend it, and also put a thumbs up on the video. A thumbs up. It's important you put a thumbs up on it as well. So you know, I hope you do, guys. Otherwise, I'm going to come back on this here, and I'm going to be on your case until you do it.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you go to dynastymirror.com, like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, family. Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.